Hey guys, welcome back to Fantasy Tipped. My name is Julian, and this is the Weekend Ads episode for Week 12 of the fantasy hockey season. Now, I hope you guys all had a wonderful Christmas and happy holiday season. I know it's not over just yet. I hope you guys continue to have a nice, relaxing holiday season. Get yourself nice and recharged for the new year. Before we jump into the content, guys, please leave a like and hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. More than half of you guys that watch this channel still aren't subscribed, so be sure to hit that button. Would mean a lot to me. One last thing before we get started, guys. The Washington Capitals, despite the jersey behind me, are not going to be featured in this video. They only play one game this weekend, but I just wanted to show you guys this brand new Alexander Ovechkin jersey that I got. It is beautiful. I love this design for the reverse retro. Let's jump into the content now, and let's take a look at the schedule for this weekend. On Friday, December 30th, there are 4 games. Saturday, there are 12, and Sunday, there are 5. So Friday and Sunday are pretty calm nights with not a lot of games, and you can almost guaranteed fit any player in your lineup pretty much. Just make sure that you have room for that specific position that you're picking up. But in all likelihood, you can fit almost anyone in your lineup those 2 nights. As usual, guys, this video, I'm going to talk about players that play both Friday, Saturday, Friday, Sunday, and then Saturday, Sunday, and then you can adjust for your needs with your lineup. So we're going to start with players that play both Friday and Saturday, and if you do want players that play both those days, the only 2 teams that actually play both those games are Edmonton and Nashville. So if you do want a player that plays both Friday and Saturday in your lineup, if you do have room on Saturday, you're going to want to pick from one of those 2 teams. And the number 1 guy that I would grab for those Friday and Saturday games is Nino Niederreiter of the Nashville Predators. Now, he's been up and down with his consistency, but he's been overall pretty decent all year, and he is playing currently on the second line with Tanner Jeannot and Cody Glass. While it's not the best deployment in the world, he hasn't been doing too bad lately. Then I have Ryan Johansson playing on the third line with Duchesne and Trennan, and Duchesne has been pretty hot lately, so Johansson definitely could benefit from that and put up some points for you. Then I have Mikael Granlund, who plays on the top line with Filip Forsberg, and yeah, he hasn't been that great lately. And this year, he's been honestly pretty big of a disappointment. Last year, he was pretty solid all year long, and a big reason for that is that Filip Forsberg has been ice cold. So, you know, when your star player that you're playing with isn't playing that well, it doesn't help. Now, last game, though, Filip Forsberg did score a goal, so hopefully he can keep up that momentum, and that should help Mikael Granlund going forward. Then I have Tanner Jeannot, who plays on the second line with Niederreiter and Glass. And while he has been super underwhelming himself this year, he is hitting, once again, a decent amount to give you a nice floor there. And then I have Evan Bouchard of the Edmonton Oilers. And I did list him as a drop last week, and I still do believe that he is a drop. But if you do need someone that plays on Friday and Saturday, and you really, really need someone, Bouchard is probably the next best option. There's still a little bit of a floor there with a little bit of peripherals that he puts up, and occasionally a point. And if you're lucky, he will put up a point for you. But at this point, I'd probably rather go elsewhere and try to grab a guy who maybe plays Friday and Sunday instead, just because the pickings here are not very good. But if you are insistent on picking someone for these 2 days, Jesper Puljujärvi is the next best option because he plays on the top line with Connor McDavid. And then Yakov Trenin is also the next best option because he plays with Johansson and with Duchesne. Jumping into players now that play both Friday and Sunday, and this is arguably the most important part of the video because those are the days that you're going to have room in your lineup to actually pick guys up. So the 4 teams that play on those 2 days are Carolina, Florida, New Jersey, and Seattle. The number 1 and 2 guys that I would stream for those 2 nights are both from the Florida Panthers, and they are Carter Verhaeghe and Sam Bennett. Carter Verhaeghe plays on the top line with Alexander Barkov, and Sam Bennett plays on the second line with Luostarinen and Tkachuk. Both a very good deployment, and both have been pretty solid this year. Then I have Jared McCann and Matty Beniers, and along with Jordan Eberle, who's just a couple spots lower on this list, they make up the top line in Seattle. They've been pretty good lately, and all of these guys get power play time. Beniers is on the Schultz power play, and McCann and Eberle are on the Dunn power play. Both power plays tend to get a decent amount of power play time in Seattle, so I wouldn't say one is really the power play one, but all 3 of these guys are definitely some decent options for streaming for this weekend for Friday and Sunday. Then I have Andre Burakovsky, who plays on the second line in Seattle alongside Venberg and Schwartz. Now, it's not the greatest line in the world, I understand that, but he is getting some decent power play time, and he's probably been the most consistent player on Seattle this whole season. Don't mind that pickup. Then I have Teuvo Teravainen playing on the top line with Jarvis and Aho in Carolina, as well as the second power play. Unfortunately, he's not on the first power play unit, and he's been a huge disappointment this year. Personally, I have faith in Teuvo Teravainen, which is why I'm not dropping him just yet, and I'm actually adding him here. I think he definitely could wake up soon. Then I have Brandon Tanev of the Seattle Kraken, and despite him being a fourth liner, this dude has been putting up some nice stats. He's been putting up some points lately, which is great, and he'll give you a pretty nice floor with hits and with shots on goal as well. Definitely don't mind him right now since he is pretty hot. Then I have Seth Jarvis of the Carolina Hurricanes, like I said, playing on the top line with Aho and Teravainen. He's been a little bit better lately, and that's why he's here on this list. Next is Jordan Staal, and he's on a 5-game point streak where he's collected 8 points straight. Now, I don't expect that to last too much longer, but as long as this dude's hot, he's definitely a pretty solid streamer. You can even grab his line at Jesper Fast. He's also putting up points right now. Then I have Stefan Noesen of the Carolina Hurricanes, and despite him being a fourth liner, he's actually putting up points and decent peripherals. He's giving you a safe floor night in and night out, and he's getting top power play time in Carolina, which definitely gives him a nice amount of value, and he's putting up points very, very frequently. I actually really like Stefan Noesen, especially in deeper leagues. He's a guy you can even hold on to. Then I have Yanni Gourde playing on the third line in Seattle with Bjorkstrand and Donato, and he's been one of their more consistent players all year. He's never going to be too exciting of a producer, but he definitely could put up a point every night or so for you. Definitely not a bad streamer. Then I have Daniel Sprong, who's been one of the most under-the-radar players all year long. He has 19 points in 25 games. He's doing very, very well, and most of his deployment has been on the fourth line. So that goes to show you something, that Sprong is having himself a very good season with very little ice time, and so that's pretty impressive. And if you're in a deep, deep league, he's definitely someone I don't mind taking a chance on. And then finally, I have Thomas Tatar, who plays on the top line with Nico Hischier, and he seems to be possibly heating back up right now. Not a terrible grab there. And now if you want to add someone that plays both Saturday and Sunday, there are 4 teams that play both Saturday and Sunday. Those teams are Buffalo, Chicago, Ottawa, and San Jose. First on the list, guys, is Tomas Hertl of the San Jose Sharks, having himself another solid year, playing on the second line right now, as well as the top power play with Timo Meier. It's a good deployment for him, and he's going to continue to produce. He's a very, very good player. Then Dylan Cousins is someone who's still playing with JJ Peterka and with Jack Quinn on that second line in Buffalo. And while he's been a little bit colder as of late, he's still a pretty solid option. Then Logan Couture, who's now playing on that top line with Timo Meier. It's very good deployment, and he's also on that top power play. So this guy can definitely get going and start putting up a lot of points. And I have Max Domi playing on the top line with Tyler Johnson and Patrick Kane, as well as the top power play. And he's been a little bit inconsistent this year, but when he's on, he is on. So if you're lucky, you'll get him on a very good night. Then I have Barabanov, who's playing on the top line in San Jose with Timo Meier and Logan Couture, as well as the top power play. And this guy has been very, very solid and sneaky all year round. And you should continue to put up the points, because that deployment is even better than anything he's had so far this year. Playing with Timo Meier is an absolute treat. Good ad right now. Then I have Jack Quinn, who I already mentioned, plays with Dylan Cousins on that second line in Buffalo. He seems to be doing a significant amount better as of late. He's not a terrible option for a streamer here. Then I have Jonathan Toews, who's playing on the second line and top power play in Chicago, and he seems to be doing a little bit better as of late, heating up maybe a little bit. Not a terrible option for a streamer here. Moving on to Shane Pinto of the Ottawa Senators, playing on the second line with Drake Batherson and DeBrincat. It's a solid deployment, and he's doing a little bit better as of late, so not a terrible streamer. Then Kevin Labanc, who's also been pretty sneaky good all year long, playing now on the second line with Tomas Hertl. Definitely not a bad deployment. Definitely someone who could put up some points for you. Then Victor Olofsson, who's playing on the third line with Casey Middlestat. It's a decent line. He's not really my favorite option in the world, but if there's nobody above him on this list available, he's probably the next best bet. Then JJ Peterka, who is playing on that pretty good line with Jack Quinn and Dylan Cousins, and if that line can heat up once again, JJ Peterka definitely can start producing once again. Then Kyle Okposo, who's actually a fourth liner in Buffalo, but has been pretty consistent with a little bit of a safe floor, and then puts up a point once in a while. Don't mind that ad either. Then I have Nick Bonino, who's been decently consistent this year, playing on the third line right now, so definitely not my favorite option at all, but if you are desperate, he's not a terrible, terrible option. And then finally I have Tyler Johnson, who's coming back from injury, and On the season, his stats are actually pretty good, but he hasn't played a lot of games, so I'm not reading too much into that just yet. But he is getting top line time with Patrick Kane and with Max Domi, so we'll see if he can get going here. Jumping into defenseman now, and first on the list is Adam Larsson, who's been putting up a very safe floor every night with hits, shots, blocks, you name it, he's doing it. And he's also putting up points pretty frequently, actually. I'm not sure how long that's going to continue, but he's doing that right now, which makes him the best option for a streamer for this weekend. Then Seth Jones of the Chicago Blackhawks, and he hasn't been that great this year in terms of points, but he is still manning that top power play, gives him all the opportunities to put up those points. And guys, he's also putting up some pretty nice peripherals. Like, he's putting up some nice block shots numbers every night, which makes him not a bad option at all. Then Radko Gudas is the next best guy if you have hits in your league, because he puts up a very, very safe floor with hits. Then I have Vince Dunn of the Seattle Kraken, who is their power play guy there in Seattle, along with Justin Schultz, who's a couple spots lower on this list. Both those guys man a power play, and both those guys are decent options. Dunn is definitely a better option than Schultz, because Schultz is super, super, super streaky. Dunn gives a little bit of a safe floor as well, where Schultz does not. So that's why Dunn's the next guy on this list. Then Matt Benning, someone who I've liked a lot lately, puts up a pretty safe floor these days with hits and shots and blocks, and then puts up a point every once in a while as well. He was injured last game, though, so make sure he is in the lineup before you pick him up. Then Brady Shea has been putting up points as of late. He's got a little bit of a floor as well, but if he stops putting up points, I probably wouldn't pick him up. Then I have Justin Schultz, who I already talked about when I was talking about Dunn. Then Matthias Samuelsson has been putting up some solid block shots numbers lately, so the floor he's been giving is pretty decent. Then Jake McCabe, same thing with the block shots, giving you a pretty decent floor night in and night out. Now, if you're looking for some goalies to stream on Sunday, there are 6 options. And the number 1 option would be the Buffalo goalie that ends up getting the start on Sunday against Ottawa. Either Craig Anderson or Ukko Pekka-Luukkonen, otherwise known as 6K. Now, they do have a back-to-back set on Saturday and Sunday. So, whichever goalie doesn't start on Saturday is going to be the guy who starts on Sunday. That's going to be the guy you're going to want to pick up for that start. Then I have Reimer or Kaapo Kähkönen against the Chicago Blackhawks as the next best option, because the Chicago Blackhawks are not very good. They also have a back-to-back, so whoever doesn't start on Saturday is going to start on Sunday. And then I have whichever Seattle Kraken goalie ends up getting the start on Sunday. It is very, very hard to predict which Kraken goalie is going to get the start. It's been pretty erratic who they choose to start. So, we're going to have to see how the week goes. And honestly, I wouldn't pick up any of these guys until they do get confirmed on Sunday. But that would be my next best bet against the New York Islanders, because the New York Islanders, they do shoot the puck a lot and don't necessarily score that many goals. So even if the Seattle Kraken do lose this game, the goalies will still put up some pretty decent numbers. Then I have Anton Forsberg, the Ottawa Senators, which is the next best option against Buffalo. And as long as he gets the second half of the back-to-back set, he'll get that start. Then Mrazek and Stalock do have a back-to-back set as well on Saturday and Sunday. Whoever doesn't start on Saturday is going to be starting on Sunday. I would honestly hope that it's Stalock, because he is the better goalie and will likely have a pretty good outing. So he'd actually be one of my favorite goalies to grab if it actually is him starting. And then finally I have Mackenzie Blackwood, who is back from his injury, and he seems to be maybe taking over that starting role. If it is him starting this week and he performs well, I would expect him to start once again on Sunday against Carolina, but Carolina is a tough opponent, which is why he is last here on this list. Jumping into the categories league section of this video now, and if you need to catch up on shots on goal, you want to make sure that you maintain your lead in that category, the number 1 guy to grab would be Sam Bennett, who shoots the puck 3.1 times per game. Then Carter Verhaeghe 3.0, Bjorkstrand 2.7, Miles Wood 2.6, Dylan Cousins 2.6, Teravainen, Lundell, Eberle, and Shea all 2.3 shots per game. If you need blocks, the number 1 guy to grab is Jake McCabe of the Chicago Blackhawks. 2.5 blocks per game. So you stream him for those 2 games that he has, Saturday and Sunday, you'll get about 5 blocks, which is pretty decent. Seth Jones, 2.4. McDonough, 2.1. Larson, 2.1. Matthias Samuelsson, 2.0. Matt Benning, 1.6, but he's been blocking more lately, which is why I have him here. And then Connor Murphy, 2.0. If you need hits, the number 1 guy to grab is Tanner Jeannot, who hits 3.8 times per game. You grab him for 2 games, he'll get you about 7 hits, which is pretty good. Then Radko Gudas, 3.8. Tenori, 3.7. Costin 3.0, but he's been hitting a lot lately, so one of the better options here. Parker Kelly 2.7, but has also been hitting a lot lately, which is why he's this high on the list. Then Jeremy Lauzon 3.1, Niemelainen 2.9, and Cole Smith 2.7. If you need faceoff wins, the number one guy to grab is Jonathan Toews. He wins 12.2 faceoffs per game on average, which is very, very solid. Over 2 games, he'll probably win you 24, 25 faceoffs. That is fantastic. Then Tomas Hertl, 9.6. Jordan Staal, 9.4. Ryan Johansson, 9.3. Couture, 8.3. Colton Sissons, 7.4. Eric Halla, 7.4. He also has left wing eligibility. Dylan Cousins, 7.3. Max Domi, 7.2, who has all 3 forward positions, and then Michael McLeod 7.1 if you need someone who's really low rostered. And that's it, guys. Thank you so much for watching all the way through. I hope you guys all had a wonderful, happy Christmas and holidays, and I hope that you guys all have an amazing New Year's celebration and a wonderful new year. Thanks so much, guys, and I'll catch you in the next episode of Fantasy Tipped.